GoFundMes, sketchy alibis, insurance money, and Florida man. It's all going to be in today's video. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's back there. Usually Roscoe is in it, but he knows that I am packing up to fly out today and he is beside himself because he can't go. And my name is Paul if you're new to the channel. Now what we're going to be talking about today is kind of, when I say it's a new case, it's not really a new case because it happened a minute ago, but it hasn't like gone to trial or anything like that. But there's finally been like movement and arrest and charges and that type thing. So I wanted to go ahead and speak to it. Also because it takes place in a place that I used to live. So I was just like, whoa, this is so weird. You know, it's always a little bit different when these cases like hit home, if you will. So that's it. Now if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, well, it's on the screen and it's down below in that little description box, so go on, click it. We do Instagrammy things over there. What we're going to be talking about today is a case. It is a Florida couple. I already told you, Florida man. One of them has been arrested. One of them unfortunately lost his life. So I'm not going to really do a 60-second overview because the whole video is the overview, if you will. So let's just go ahead and jump on into it. So on March 25th, 2023, Timothy Smith was found deceased in an apartment in Ocala, Florida. Now, police would say that he had suffered a violent attack prior to his passing. Now, Timothy was one part of a couple. The other guy that he was in a couple with, his husband, has been arrested at this point. We'll get into that in a minute. Now, let's first of all hear what the victim's friends and people like that had to say about him. Now, he was the executive director for the Brookdale Assisted Living Facility in Ocala. And she says that he did a lot with dementia, Alzheimer's patients, and did a lot in the community. Didn't have a mean bone in his body. His heart was as big as the universe. Everybody loved him. Now, she says that he also helped to raise money for her domestic violence charity. Now, Timothy was married to a guy named Herbert. Herbert's 55 years old. He's a handyman. And for as long as they were in a relationship, things apparently weren't as great as they seemed. There was stuff going on behind closed doors. Now, here's the thing. Allegedly, Herbert had been abusive towards Smith in the past, to the extent that allegedly Smith was like trying to get out of there. He was like, you know what? I'm out. I've got a new job in a new county. I'm going to be going, but I ain't taking him. Now, here's the other thing. Love can make you do some crazy things, and often, as we see in these cases, some, you know, illegal, taking somebody's life kind of a things, right? That's what happens when there's a lot of passion, history, and anger there. And also when there's a lot of money, okay? There was, as you can imagine, as we oftentimes see in these cases, there was an insurance policy. It was worth over $300,000. That is a huge amount of money. Now, we see this so many times in these cases that play out where, you know, it's just, for whatever reason, the relationship's not working, right? I mean, for whatever reason, you know, who knows? Somebody's wanting to leave. Somebody somehow convinces themselves, my life would be better off if I had the benefit of them, like their money and stuff, but just not them. Now, here's the other weird twist that's happened along the way in this case, but it's kind of seemingly been resolved, is Swiley's daughter was also named as a person of interest at one point. She was some kind of suspect, but she has been cleared, so that's been taken care of. But again, at the beginning, it was like, what's going on? Is this like a family affair or something? Now, here's the thing. When this first happened, again, just like clockwork, Herbert was very helpful and like, oh my gosh, let's find out what happened. And we'll talk about what the cops are saying happened here in a minute. And we're also going to be reviewing that GoFundMe, his Facebook posts and stuff like that, because it's literally, it's like just add water with some of these cases, their behavior. Now, like I said, Herbert would speak to the cops as most grieving spouses do, right? And be like, I want to help, I want to help. But here's what the cops had to say about his help. They would say that the statements were false, self-serving, and contradicted by other evidence. And here's the thing. Once the cops like circle back around and be like, yeah, we'd like to come and talk to you again. Nope, it was not going to happen. To the extent that when they circle back around, he got his lawyers to be like, look, he wants immunity from prosecution in this case in order to talk. Well, you already know. Like, seriously? No. But here's the thing, you know how so we're going to talk about what has allegedly happened? There's good reason why he wants immunity, okay? Because the evidence and the circumstances surrounding Timothy's death, they're not good. So Timothy had 30 times more than the normal therapeutic dose of diphenhydramine, an ingredient found in Benadryl. Now, he also had blunt force trauma to his face, his genitalia, and a Lidgerger mark around his neck. He was found in an apartment near these guys' home. This apartment was like, it sounded like it was a couple of different things. It was like a rental, something they had, but also a place that they would use to like, kind of have like separate rendezvous or whatever, because it sounds like they had an open type relationship, and so they would use this for that. Now, I mention this because just keep this in mind. This lines up, and again, this is all allegedly, right? He has not had his day in court. I don't know these people. I don't know anything. So this is literally just sofa opinions right here. We ain't fancy. We ain't no doctor. We ain't no lawyer, okay? We just got sofa opinions. That's all they are. I could be totally wrong. So allegedly, he's like done this to make it look like some kind of attack or whatever, and then moved the body to this apartment. What would only make sense, because if they're sitting here hooking up like with whoever in this apartment separately, and then he's done these type of injuries to his husband's, places on his body, it to me looks like it was going to be like, oh, this is like a hookup gone wrong, you know what I mean, kind of a thing. And it was like, that's how he was trying to like angle it. Now, here's the other thing. So Tim's sister, she spoke to NBC about this, and she said some really interesting things that make Herbert's case even worse. Now, I'm going to quote the article here on what she said. He was telling me that they both had keys to their apartment, but Tim had took the key back. Then he said, no, he gave it back to me. He changed his story about this key 3 or 4 times, Rails said. And I was like, this is not right. Now, she would be like, this isn't right. And she ends up going to law enforcement. Now, about that alleged like abuse and whatnot that came before, she says she didn't know anything about that, but she did have something to say just about like the vibe of their relationship. I'm going to go ahead and quote that again. She said that Tim's relationship with Herbert had driven a wedge between her and her brother. We didn't want to be around Herbert, she said. We just had this bad feeling and we just didn't like him. He was real arrogant. So, very interesting. And again, it's all alleged. Nobody's been convicted yet. But you just start looking at circumstantial stuff and then like the actual pragmatic, evidence, and it's not looking good. Now, let's continue on. So August 8th of this year, that's when he was officially named as a suspect, and that's when his daughter was named as a person of interest. But like I said, she would eventually be taken off that status. And then this is when the tributes, the Facebook stuff, the woe is me, all that kind of stuff starts coming out. So let's go ahead and take a minute and look at all of this stuff. Okay, now this right here, y'all, this one's from earlier in the year. It's from Herbert, and it says, really don't know what to say here. Just for the past couple of days, I've been trying to wrap my head around things. It still seems so unreal. Is there no words for how I'm feeling? There's a big empty hole inside of me. Only time will tell. Jordan and I will miss you so much, Tim Smith. We had so much more planned to do. This is the hardest thing I'm having to do in my life without you. The only thing that will help is time and support from the friends and loved ones. Now, we'll go on there. And it just shows some pictures, as we see here, of the family and whatnot. Now, let's go on to another one. Now, here we see on April 2nd, a GoFundMe. Again, this is from Herbert, and it says, there's one thing I'm sure he would enjoy everyone wearing something purple. So if everyone will wear something purple in remembrance of Tim Smith, it was the color we had in our wedding. He loved this color. We planned around the color purple. He always wore something colorful. And then down here it says Timothy F. Smith Celebration of Life, organized by Herbert Sweely. And let's just go on a little deeper into that. Now, here is the GoFundMe. Now, at this point, this stuff has been refunded to people for obvious reasons. So just keep that in mind. But it says Timothy F. Smith's Celebration of Life. Here we see Timothy. It says, hi, this is Timothy's spouse. Raising fund for funeral and celebration of life. The money will be used for cost on funeral and celebration life event. Will also help out with expensive for the family. Because of this tragedy, there's unforeseen expenses. This has been a tragic loss for everyone, family and friends. And there's that. Okay. This is another one from March 30th that we're looking at. This is just previously, and this is like he's just kind of like clearing up some kind of, confusion or whatever. Now remember, Timothy worked at this the senior living place or whatever, so that's what they were talking about here, Brookdale. And it just says, I'm posting this into response to this. This is not Tim's official celebration of life. This is for the Brookdale residents only. We are doing one on 4/14/2023. Details to follow. So please, everyone, disregard this flyer. Brookdale should not have posted posted this, no one else should be posting it. It should be clarified that this was for Brickdale residents and their family members, not our family members and friends. We'll definitely be doing the celebration of life, and it goes on there. Now this, I don't think there's anything bad about this part here. My mother had a friend who did the same kind of thing at a place, and they have a separate thing for the senior living center or whatever, so I get that. However, friends and family still came to that one because it was so integrated in their life, but everybody's different, right? Now let's go ahead and talk about what the cops are saying actually happened. Remember, it has not gone through court. So the cops are saying that sometime around March 23rd or early in the morning of the 24th, Smith was given a large amount of diphenhydramine, that's that Benadryl stuff, that was 30 times higher than the normal therapeutic dose. Now, after he was dosed, authorities allege that Herbert choked his husband to death with an unknown ligature. I can't say that word, but you know what I mean. This fractured his cervical spine. Swally then used his vehicle to move the body from their home to a nearby apartment that they had. Herbert allegedly staged a fake crime scene inside the apartment and also was accused of trying to destroy evidence with household cleaning products. He then drove back to their home, swapped cars, driving his husband's vehicle to the apartment, and then he walked back to their home where he allegedly deleted footage from their Ring cam. We're going to talk about that in a second. Now, a few hours after this took place, he drove to a landfill and discarded 2 carpets before going about his day. Now, a couple of things on that. First of all, is this not one of the first times we've heard of the perpetrator actually having the forethought to delete Ring camera footage, right? Now, I'm not trying to congratulate him here on this, but if you follow all these cases, it's shocking to me how many people have no concept about even their own cameras in their house. And so for him to be this cunning and this pre-plotted, allegedly, I'm like, whoa, like this is somebody who really thought through this. But circle back again to my completely hypothetical reporting from the sofa opinion, not factual, of if this apartment was used for hooking up. And so he does the deed at their house, drives them to there, sets the scene up, comes back, drives the car, walks back home, goes to the thing, throws out the carpets, does all this thing, uses bleach to cover up whatever. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. This to me is what he was trying to do. He was trying to set it up like it was a random hookup who attacked him, and that was that. And then he was going to laugh his little butt all the way off to the bank while doing the GoFundMe and crying at the little celebration of life thing. But obviously, the cops were not buying his story or his "I'll help," and he was eventually arrested. Let's take a look at the booking photo. Okay, so here we see a Marion County Sheriff's Office, his inmate, his booking. The booking date was November 3rd, so this is like fairly recently, depending on when you're watching this. Ocala, and it says, charge number 1, homicide, murder, first degree premeditated, and then charge number 2, tamper with evidence in criminal proceeding. So they got him on those 2 things. There's no bond. Now, to me, depending on the judge and how that kind of works, to me, when they do no bond, that's pretty serious. But again, this is Florida and they don't really play. You know what I'm saying? So, for the most part, it's not like, oh, you can just go do whatever. For the most part, they seem to be pretty serious down there. Yeah, but it also tells me the evidence is probably pretty overwhelming because they had a minute, obviously, to be looking into this, right? I mean, it wasn't just like overnight they arrested him. I mean, this is November from March. Now, he obviously has pled not guilty. Now, but the sad thing is they were only 5 months away from their 8-year anniversary. So, I mean, this was, not a long-term relationship, but I mean, this was this wasn't some overnight thing, right? There's history there. There's family. There was this kind of stuff. And so it's so sad when we watch these cases to see that a person eventually just becomes a dollar amount to somebody. Instead of just getting a divorce, going your separate ways, whatever you have to do, it's like the other person, the alleged perpetrator, wants to have their cake and eat it too, at the victim and their family's expense. Now, here's the other thing, and I'll reference this article from People magazine, is other sketchy stuff was going down after this all went down and whatnot. So after the body is found and the alarms are sounded on this, and this is probably where his daughter, meaning Herbert's, was like, what's going on, girl? But they were less than 24 hours, they were getting rid of his stuff. It's just okay, goodbye, you're out of here. And other friends were talking you know what, we wouldn't have really even befriended this dude, meaning Herbert, if it wasn't for Tim. How oftentimes you'll meet a couple, and usually one of the couples is the one that kind of attracts friends and stuff like that. This is what this sounded like. Obviously from the sister, but she was it drove a wedge. We didn't want to be around him. This guy's personality. And the friends were saying the same thing. He had a really rough personality. We just didn't even want to be around him. If it wasn't for Tim, we want to be friends with this dude. So here's the thing. We're just going to kind of hang tight and watch what unfolds with this. Obviously, he ain't going nowhere. So it'll be interesting to see more and more evidence comes out, because if this is what they're having just right off the bat, they're saying they have against him, I mean, it's pretty damning information. Now, obviously, we need to wait for a court to take place. If it does, you never know, he might plead out. The circumstantial evidence of what people are saying and this kind of stuff, I mean, yes, that can add context, and it always does for me, but I respect that in a court of law. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the evidence that counts to convict somebody. So it is what it is. This has not been, gone through and tried and true and all that yet. But again, it ain't looking good. Now, if you are still watching, I greatly appreciate it. Roscoe says, thank you for watching. I'm in trauma. My dad is leaving. Please drop sofas in the comment section. So he's going to be taken care of by his granny and grandpa for the next week, and he is just not happy about that. But anyways, drop some comforting sofas down there for him. And until Roscoe and I do meander our way down to the comforting sofas to talk about this and these other crazy headlines, we'll see y'all soon.